Westfield.
Games are hard to make. No developer or team of developers ever goes into a project thinking, I will make this game bad. And when a game ends up as a platform exclusive, for whatever reason, there are always high hopes for it to represent the format in some way. So I sympathise when an exclusive ends up rubbish, because nobody wants or expects it to happen, and it's not the kind of thing we should just point and laugh at without thinking about the deeper processes and machinations behind the scenes, without delving into the business as a whole and trying to get some level of understanding. Actually, it's easy to be negative, so let's just be negative. Here's some of the absolute worst PS3 exclusives ever to come out on Sony's machine. And when I say exclusive, I mean the game only came out on PS3. No remasters or re-releases elsewhere, no ports, no other versions. So no, Turning Point Fall of Liberty isn't on this list. The Move games: Kung Fu Rider, PlayStation Move Ape Escape, The Fight, Lights Out. Best to get these out of the way quickly, and you won't be seeing the fight here as my Move controllers wouldn't calibrate properly. I won't hold this against the game though, that's mainly because I don't need to. Safe to say, it's more than bad enough by itself. So there was a problem with those PlayStation Move games that came out with the Wii aping motion controllers in 2010. They tended to be bad. There were some that were fun, some that were good enough, some that added a bit of interest to an otherwise regular game, but hey, remember kids, this is a video about bad games, so here you go. Actually, there were way too many Move-only games to put in here, so I settled on these three. The Fight, of course, which even Danny Trejo couldn't save. Ape Escape acted as an exercise in trying to distill something down to its purest form of uninteresting trash. You just get dragged through some environments on rails and wave your arm about to capture monkeys in a net. It's a game about catching monkeys in a net, and therefore should be both brilliant and hilarious without any effort whatsoever. Apparently not. Kung Fu Rider, meanwhile, well, here's what I think happened. Someone at Sony was tasked with coming up with a new game that would utilise Move. They didn't bother because they hated their job and would go out and drink and dance and play instead, like we all do. Then the deadline for the new idea was suddenly upon them, and in the heat of the moment, in the middle of the meeting, they said, I figured we'd just make some stupid nonsense about some people running from the mob on office chairs and other similar wheeled items not suitable for road use. It was signed off on before they'd even finished their sentence, and Sony swiftly promoted that person to reward them for the greatest idea the company had ever heard. That person's name? Ken Kutaragi. Prove me wrong. Anyway, Kung Fu Rider's awful, and far worse, it really annoys me. Unforgivable. I mean, all the games work, and they all help show off the tech, I suppose, but when you're trying to sell that tech as a new big thing, there needs to be something more than this rubbish. Just remake Boom Blocks. Sorted. The JRPGs: Time and Eternity, Last Rebellion. And I might as well get another little grouping out of the way. When a JRPG is bad, it all just blends into one big mush of who knows what, which is why I've opted to blend Time and Eternity and Last Rebellion into one big bowl of sludge, where they're welcome to pollute one another with their ineptitude, idiocy, and banality. Aren't I kind? And while I am being a mite facetious there, it's not entirely untrue that these games blend into one. They have common themes: soul-binding, terribly dull battles, dodgy animated scenes, and voice acting that makes me wish I didn't have a mouth, so that when I heard the terrible voice acting I wouldn't be tempted to scream, "This is bad voice acting!" Anyway, more specifically, Last Rebellion manages the deeply impressive achievement of looking like it came out in some weird limbo state between the PS1 and PS2, even though it released on PS3 in 2010. It has some systems you think might build into something you get on board with, a set attack order for individual enemies you have to figure out, basically. But no, just no. It's painful, not worth bothering with, and not the sort of thing anyone would be proud of having played through. Time and Eternity, on the other hand, well, it at least looks okay when it's not in motion with that distinctive Japanese animation style to things. I don't know anything much about anime, so I'll refrain from commenting on the highly sexualized women who look like 13-year-olds and dress like they're working a certain area in Amsterdam I once walked through in a state of confused terror. True story, but not one to share here and now. Anyway, once things get moving in T&E, as it be known, everything falls apart. This game looks cheap as a $2 steak, to channel good old JR. Oh, also, it's bad. Interminably dull, offering little to nothing to actually keep you invested, and up there with the most annoying things that have ever happened. Literally, up there. Few things in existence have ever been more annoying. That's actual, genuine science. Mobile Suit Gundam, Target and Sight, or Crossfire, depending on where you live. It's not even Gundam's biggest issue, though it is a mighty one, but I'd like to start this out by showing you a full clip of a mission in the game, and it's gone. There's the kind of difficulty that we can all get along with and enjoy, that challenges and invigorates, that makes us feel like we achieve something when we overcome it. And there's Gundam, which is a big ball of cheating sputum that deserves to be rocket punched in its robotic gonads, which I would be all too happy to do were it not so ludicrously clunky. Swing that laser sword, wait, swing in the wrong direction, wait, turn, swing. I'd also like to throw in a second true fact pointer here in that no, you're not seeing buffering or stuttering in this video. This is just how Target Insight runs, as though it were badly animated stop motion running through treacle in slow motion doing a terrible impression of a competent video game. I mean, I know the PS3 was hard for devs to get to grips with when it first launched, but you'd at least expect something to clock in at over 2 frames per millennium. I haven't measured that figure, by the way. You'll need to get Digital Foundry in to take a look. I'm sure they'd be up for it. There are things about Gundam that make you think maybe somehow, someway it might be good. Robo management, upgrades, RPG-like progression, an almost living world, though one that seems like you win half the game by just skipping to the next day repeatedly. These are all hallmarks of some of my favourite games, like Metal Gear Solid 5, Armored Core, Football Manager, and so on, because I'm a dullard. But when none of these elements outside the core game make sense, and the actual game bits are so awful they make me want to cut all my ties with the modern world and go live up a mountain somewhere, yeah, it's not going to go well, is it? Haze. You know what? I won't jump on the hate brigade, tempting as that might be. Haze had some genuinely good ideas and was well ahead of Spec Ops: The Line with regards to trying to be Apocalypse Now in game form. It's clunkily told and not exactly a unique story. Man realizes his team is the wrong one, shock horror that the military-industrial complex is the worst of all the complexes, surprise surprise. But the anti-war message, the elements of drug-induced euphoria and overdose, how Haze harnesses video game tropes like disappearing corpses to highlight the fact you as a player are just as desensitized to this bad stuff as the soldiers you're supposed to pity and fear. It's alright, actually. But god no, the hype. The hype came into play. Haze was shown off a few times over the years. It was originally a third-person game before moving to first-person, and that's where the initial major turning point came in, because it was noted numerous times that this now FPS was being made that way so it could compete directly with the likes of Call of Duty and Halo. The second turning point? Why, that was when Sony announced it was getting Haze all to itself, with Ubisoft making it a full-on proper exclusive on PS3. The Halo killer rhetoric swiftly ramped up to unbearable levels. Really, Haze is more of a disappointment than anything. It's full of glitches and bugs, is terribly signposted, suffers ludicrous difficulty spikes, and generally treats players totally unlike Halo does. But it's not absolutely awful. It's okay. It's banal to the point of ridicule, of course, and I would never go so far as to recommend anyone actually bother play it, even if I do think there's something to be salvaged in the story being told. But no, Haze, like my mum would often say, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Also, you're adopted. Skydiving and Feel Ski, aka Go Sports Skydiving and Ski. Whatever name you go with for these two, it changes little. Awful things. I wanted to hold back on putting digital-only titles here because there is a lot of garbage out there, but these two just do something to my brain that gets it all angered up and bubbling with rage juice. And that's down to 2 elements. 1, they both rely almost exclusively on the 6-axis for controls, and 2, they're both made by developers with competent, good even, games under their belts. Skydiving is made by the team behind Bushido Blade, that classic one-on-one weaponry combat 'em up thingy where you could kill your opponent before the match had officially started. Feel Ski is from Ukes, who used to make good wrestling games. There's ability in both teams, and yet, what we get is 2 paper-thin pieces of trash with all the redeeming qualities of a rancid armpit on a warm day. Both games ask for some level of preciseness to your control inputs while offering nothing in the way of precisitude in the controls you can actually input. I guarantee you I am not as bad at Feel Ski as what you're seeing right now makes me look. Both games feature little to nothing in the way of content. You're talking a couple of levels per game, a couple of basic modes, which actually serves as a bit of a blessing as there's less tricking you into staying. And both games might almost be excused as early years PSN games, but no, that's not happening. Not on my watch. Truly, genuinely awful. Untold Legends: Dark Blade. Here we have what is probably the best entry on this whole list, a game that wishes so hard it was World of Warcraft or any other number of mid-noughties MMOs, except hasn't bothered to be an MMO, and is instead just a big pile of repetitive nothing, which, come to think of it, is a hell of a lot like most MMOs. Well, who'd have thunk I'd pull out such an unexpected heel turn as that? Huh. Epic content. Anywho, Untold Legends may be the best on this list, but it's still bad. Here's me playing as the stealthy character, by the way, using the power of shadows and silence to my advantage as I'm just battering everyone endlessly, obviously, and very loudly. There's 2 other character archetypes, you do the same nonsense with them, endlessly, probably forever. I never did reach the end of this because honestly, who has the mental stamina? In the realms of exclusive games on PS3, you have a lot of memorable, genuine epics, offering something of interest, something different, something unique and special to a genre, to a console, to games in general. Untold Legends, however, exists in a world where Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance had already been released, so it didn't even have the excuse of trying to be the best button-smashy action RPG on console, as it had already been beaten to the punch, or button mash. I find it hard to hate Darkblade, though that does ring true for most games on this list, but I also find it impossible to feel anything positive about it. It's just so utterly pointless, though that does ring true for most games in general, and oh, I've just blown your mind. The Punisher, No Mercy. Well, here's a fun one. Like, not a fun one, a terrible one, but fun. You get what I mean. The Punisher should work perfectly as a game, but we've had, one that was great, and that was an arcade game 20 odd years ago. The PS3 exclusive outing for Comic Booking's Angriest Man would have been something half decent, were there, anything to it. See, No Mercy is basically one of those pathetic bolted-on multiplayer modes you got in games around 2006, think The Darkness, except instead of being attached to a meatier, better single-player game, it's the entire game. What this means is you're playing nothing other than awful, basic, seemingly endless combat that apparently takes place on a 2D plane within a 2-meter squared arena. Flat, dull, strafing and badly designed levels with idiotic bots to fight bookended with some terribly voiced cutscenes. It's a wonder why this one didn't spawn a load of sequels. What makes me saddest about The Punisher, aside from the fact its subtitle ties it to the greatest wrestling game ever made, is that it comes from Zen Studios. That's the team behind the greatest pinball series of all time, Pinball FX. It even has a great Punisher table in that. So, really, I probably shouldn't be complaining. Stick with the pinball though, yeah? Lair. Look, nobody should ever have intentionally made any games to be controlled with the 6-axis. I'm sure you understand that by now. Lair is one of the most well-known examples of a PS3 exclusive reliant on 6-axis controls, and even though you can use analog sticks if you want, it still deserves scorn and laughter thrown in its direction for the 6-axis reason. Except, it's nowhere near the worst thing about the game. Actually, Lair controls pretty well in the most part, just using the tilty pad method. I wouldn't recommend it for any other game, and I'm not saying I want to play it like this, nor that it handles without issue. More than once I found myself angling my entire body with the pad halfway off the sofa as I tried in vain to make the stupid dragon idiot turn harder than he was. Yes, I should just use the 180-degree turn, stop judging me. But generally speaking, the 6-axis controls aren't the issue with Lair. No, that's everything else. And everything else starting once again with the hype. Lair was leapt on by Sony in the press and sold to us as the next big thing, the game that had all the graphics you could ever want, at least 9 of them, and was the sort of game that would both change your life forever and leave you feeling content and happy for the rest of eternity. Lair was going to be the best thing ever, apparently. Lair was actually a very brown, very boring game of slowly fluttering around on sky beasts, lobbing fireballs at enemy sky beasts as they lobbed fire and ice and other balls at you, all the time running as though it had been accidentally coded to run on the PlayStation 9 before being hastily bundled onto the PS3 without optimization. It's like, if you, Sony, want a game to show off the best side of your console, if you're going to jump on it and push it and hype it as something you're proud of coming to your console, you're going to need to make sure the devs behind it can actually make the thing run well. Otherwise you end up looking like schmucks. Lair made Sony look like schmucks, which admittedly is pretty funny. It's not the worst game on this list, not by a long shot, but Lair was absolutely, completely ruined by its hype. Genji, Days of the Blade. I'm willing to go out on a bit of a limb here and say Genji on PS3 is remembered somewhat unfairly. Also, it's nothing to do with Overwatch. When Genji is mentioned, the only comments around it go straight to the infamous E3 presentation of 2006, in which the action was claimed to be based on, and I quote, famous battles which actually took place in ancient Japan. Inevitably, the video that played after this comment almost immediately showed player characters battling what was referred to as a giant enemy crab, which was, in actuality, a humongous crab acting as an antagonist. Just like real life. Real-time weapon change, weak points and massive damage, Genji the game fell between the cracks over the years, forgotten as a mix of graphics and mechanics, remembered only for the memes forever attached to it and for Kazurai screaming Ridge Racer at a bemused audience before being carted off in tears. I may have embellished that last part a little. We shouldn't forget about the game, because Genji the game is a bad game. Genji is an exclusive nobody in their right mind would be proud to call their own. Admittedly, it looks great for an early PS3 release, but it's so rough around the edges it's hard not to be at the very least a bit miffed. Awkward cutscene scenes, subtitles that don't match dialogue, some dialogue just cutting off midway through, and the in-game bits don't exactly save Genji. Even if you can do some real-time weapon change action wow what a feature, the combat is thrilling in how uninspiring it is. It reminds me of God Hand, but if God Hand was awful. Everything runs in such a stiff, awkward fashion that it's impossible to get into a real rhythm or enjoy anything resembling a flow as you play. And man, that camera. You can't control it, and apparently it hates you, so do with that what you will. Giant enemy crab, massive damage. Ridge Racer! Magus. Wow. This was released in 2014 and not, as you were thinking, 1863. Wow. An exclusive to be proud of, no doubt. I have nothing to say, nothing to add, nothing that can truly help you appreciate the mind-altering levels of sheer bad going on in Magus. Congratulations, friend, you win the award of absolute worst, a late contender for the trophy, but you've earned it. Anyway, here's more of the game footage I recorded, because you're not getting away without watching more of this rubbish. If I had to play the bloody thing, you have to watch the bloody thing. In the finest traditions of YouTube, there's a list predicated entirely on negativity, all done for you. If you enjoyed it, nice one. If you didn't, also nice one, because you watched to here anyway. If you were left bereft of any and all emotion, that's probably cool too, am I to judge? If you want to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff they tell us to ask for in YouTube school, then that would be swish, and it does all help. Even just seeing a few more views on a video makes me feel all warm inside, which is nice. Finally, I do have a Patreon, because obviously. If you like this video and my other stuff, consider chipping in. Every dollar, later converted to about 73 pence before fees at today's exchange rate, is a help and a psychological boost to help me keep doing this. With that in mind, here's a bunch of $5 or more contributors who've earned the right to have me mess about with their names on the screen before settling on a standard scroll from bottom to top. And special thanks to my higher tier patrons, all of who are responsible for stopping me from becoming my true self, a full-time Oscar the Grouch cosplayer. I mean I'd be living in a bin, that's what I mean. Video Brains, or Jake Tucker, Takara Hoshi, Robbie Sabo, Lola Osman. Your support is amazing, as are you all. Thanks kindly. Bye!